Adam's upset that they only signed Pickett to a 3-year deal and not a 10. We're going to talk about the long-term signings for the Nuggets rookies. We'll ask the question, can the Nuggets be better this season? Plus, a little bit more of Summer League preview, all that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us, making us your first listen. I appreciate you guys being with us on whatever platform that you've chosen and being an everydayer. Appreciate you guys being with us, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or checking out a live version of the show on YouTube. Folks hanging out with us in the chat.
Or maybe you're on Threads. Maybe you're on Blue Sky. Maybe wherever you're checking out the show.
I got to make a Threads account for us. That's true. I got to do that.
You don't have to. You actually don't.
I got to make sure that we do that. All sorts of stuff. Make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Best way to support the show. Hit a like and subscribe on there. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares, director of content for DNVR. We're going to try and get in and out of here in less than 30 minutes so Adam can hustle on up there to practice. My car's in the shop, so I'm not going to be able to make it today, unfortunately. We'll talk about the Nuggets' decision to put their rookies on guaranteed deals for extended lengths of time. We'll talk about the question of whether or not the Nuggets can be better next season. Like, how do the Nuggets be better next season? Plus, Rob Sheldon says Nuggets are going to be better this season. And we'll give a little bit more of a Summer League preview as the team does start on Friday versus the Milwaukee Bucks. All right, Adam, let's start right here. So the Nuggets signed their guys on Wednesday. I was the first one I saw was the Hunter Tyson.
That was the first one you saw?
That was the first one I saw. Hunter Tyson deal, which was a four-year fully guaranteed deal via Mike Singer of the Denver Post.
Three-year guaranteed team option in year 4.
Team option 4. They did sign your guy, Jalen Pickett, as well to a multi-year guaranteed deal. What did you make of the decision to sign the second-round picks to these deals multi-year with several years of guaranteed?
I thought what Zach Burridge in the chat thought. Calvin Booth is feeling himself. I mean, they haven't even gotten through the Summer League yet, and here it is with the guaranteed deal. It seems a little, it seems a little confident. Last year you had the Colin Gillespie injury, that happened after Summer League. You get through this or that. You want to see how a guy plays. Denver more or less solidifying their roster going into the season now and saying, no, we don't need any other players, no other veterans, no other this or that. It just shows how confident that they feel in the guys that they have. And now I say there's been no Summer League. These guys have been working out for a week. So they have gotten to give a look at them, what they look like in a gym and different things. But to me, we had speculated about the roster construction and what are some of the signs and, messages that could be sent. Clearly, there is a message being sent that Peyton Watson is our guy. Zeke Naji is our guy. And then these young guys, the guys behind him, the Pickett, the Hunter Tyson, Strother, that they believe in them at least in the years to come. But that it's like, no, we don't need other players who might play in front of these guys. Our guys are on the roster already, and we're so confident we're gonna sign the depth pieces behind them.
Michael Malone's gonna be so frustrated this season.
I agree. Honest, that's a real take, though. That's a real angle on this. So, first of all, you could just say, the Nuggets have their 15-man roster. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit. I'm a little surprised that they wouldn't keep more options open. That's the thing with these is like, why would you do these now? Like, why you can wait and do these later. Nobody's coming to get them. You have their rights. So, like, why are you doing these deals now to get it done? Why not wait until training camp? A lot of these guys don't sign until training camp. Like, wait, get them into an NBA environment, see how they mesh with the rest of the group, and then make those decisions. It is very much this is the path, and we're going to do this path until we need to pivot. But, these are guaranteed contracts now, and those get harder to move. You can just go ahead and take the pay. You can, waive them and deal with the payout on them, and that's fine. But it's not to say that they won't work out, just that it limits your options. It limits your outs. It limits your opportunities. If the 5-7 team, whatever this thing ends up with Lillard, somebody calls and is like, hey, we need somewhere to stash this player, and it would be better than one of those guys. You don't have that option now. So I'm a little bit surprised at that decision.
I mean, again, it shows the confidence that the front office has in the decisions they've already made. So whether you agree with it or not, it's clearly they're defending champions, and they're saying we're going to bet on our best shot to do that again is with this group that they have. So all of us feel like we have, if you're a Nuggets fan, it's like you have presents under the Christmas tree. You don't know what they are. They're wrapped, but it's like you're committed to them. And Summer League feels like, starting tomorrow, by the way, at 3:00 Mountain Time, it starts to feel like the first time we get to see, all right, let's open our first present. Let's take a little peek about what it is that we got. And the front office, again, is indicating that they believe it's that we're all going to be happy with it. We'll wait and see. It definitely does feel a little bullish or a little brazen for a team to go this young, but we'll see.
The other thing here, I think, is in deciding to go this path to be like, this is what we're doing. What it does allow you is, you mentioned like not having guys to play ahead of these dudes. You don't get he played 15 minutes and it was bad, so that didn't work out. So I'm going to go back to the veteran and just go that route, right? You will find out whether or not these guys work or not, and it may make your team worse, and it may put more stress on your starters and your coach. But you're going to find out whether or not, because the optimum outcome, given the new CBA, is to have young players on cheap guaranteed deals. It is a huge part of where the league is going to be going. And so in that respect, Calvin is a little bit not ahead of the game. I think everybody realizes it, but he's very much in tune. He's not out of touch with what this team needs. It would be very easy, I think, to follow up that championship and be like, we just need to keep surrounding them with veterans that know how to play and try and keep this thing up. If you want long-term sustained success with a core that's under 28, which is what they have, then you need to take approaches like this, where it's like, we're going to find out these guys can play. If they can't, we'll deal with that when the time comes. If Julian Strother can't play, if Jalen Pickett isn't an NBA player, if Hunter Tyson isn't an NBA player,
we gotta figure out what these guys are called. You know what I mean? Like Pickett, I think is Pick. They keep saying Julian for Strother, so I think Julian might be the thing there. Hunter Tyson, we don't have yet.
Okay,
this might be Hunter. Is it Tyson? We got to figure it out, man.
Hunter, it's gonna have to be Hunter, so I don't think that it's Tyson. That's why it's gonna have to be Hunter, so I don't think it's Tyson. I'm gonna want to shorten Julian to Jules. That's what I'm gonna want to do.
Jules, man,
run the Jules.
We can go for that. Jules is great.
So, all of that, but we'll see what this kind of happens. Man, the itches are out on guy or in the chat segment, pumping up guys like Jovic. And did you guys see the Vlatko hype with Woj and crew?
I didn't see that. Really, there was a Vlatko hype from Woj.
I guess. And Lowe has been talking about him too. I saw that. Like, there's been a lot of conversation about Vlatko, and it's entirely possible. I'm not ruling it out. I'm not laughing at it. I'm not ruling it out. I'm open to all possibilities, and those possibilities have to lead to the answer to this question, which is, can the Nuggets be better next season? Is that possible? We'll talk about that on the other side. But first, I need to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sponsor of Major League Baseball. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. You can use those bonus bets to take a flyer on the Nuggets to win the championship again, or to be the number one seed in the Western Conference when those props come out. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to have the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Thursday. It's a Thursday, right? Yeah, it's Thursday. The holiday has me entirely messed up, and I have to leave for Summer League tomorrow, as well as you do. Shows will be intermittent next week. I'm in Vegas until Sunday. Adam is there until Tuesday. We're gonna be running around doing all sorts of Summer League things, and then I'm have meetings in New York for action, so I'm gonna be out for a few days. But we will get you caught up as much as we can, whenever we can, on what's going on with Summer League over the weekend with the Denver Nuggets. All right, Adam. So I asked you this question that I wanted to get into. There's a lot of ways I can talk about how the Nuggets can be worse next season. The loss of Bruce Brown, the loss of Jeff Green, the vast inexperience on the supporting cast. The injuries are a big one for me, where I look at both, not just the Nuggets. I look at both the Nuggets and the Kings as two teams that had remarkable injury luck. And I will say that, like, it is not like you had no injuries last year, so you're going to have injuries. That's not how this works, right? It could be just like the Nuggets have an average amount of injuries or a slightly below average amount of injuries, but it's unlikely for 2 years in a row for them to have a pretty pristine injury record.
I think the way to phrase it, Matt, is more like from 100th percentile being the healthiest team has ever been and 0 being the worst. They were probably 85, 80. Like it wasn't that they had no injuries or no nothing, and they did have the Murray early and PJ early, but generally speaking, I think you could say they ran pretty hot there.
Yeah, and so the other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is if you lose depth, which they did in terms of veterans, then those injuries matter more. Not only from the perspective of you replacing them with, a less established, less experienced, more mistake-prone player, but also from the perspective of usually when there's an injury to a starter, other starters are the ones that are asked to make up for a lot of that. So if KCP were to get injured, they would be like, well, we need Jamal Moore on the floor because we need more scoring. If MPJ or Aaron Gordon were to get hurt, the other one would have to play more to compensate for that. And that creates a little bit of a downward spiral as well, because that increases their injury risk with more on them. So we've gone over all the ways they can be worse. But my question for you is, how can they be better next season? Like, what's the version of the Nuggets that comes into next season and we're like, holy crap, they're, they after the first 41 games, they're 31 and 12 or whatever.
It's funny because I think we might. I'm talking myself into it, Matt. Like, honestly, over the last couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, they drafted Jalen Pickett. I know why.
They drafted Jalen Pickett. I got in the film, but it's also funny because look at us. You're got the black on today. I've got the white on. We're like the devil and the angel in the ear right now as a duo. I think the playoffs are a different question because I really do think there's a regular season and there's a playoffs and they kind of require different things. The playoffs, TBD, and there's reason to be skeptical about the Nuggets' ability to solve as many problems as they did last year because of how well Bruce was a multi-tool. In the regular season, I think it's actually extremely realistic to expect them to be better. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying it will happen because of the injury thing that you just mentioned. And like, it's just hard to predict those types of things. But the bench really was an anchor last year for almost the entire year. I mean, out of 82 games, how many games was the bench a negative and how many games was it a meaningful negative? Probably 20 games. It was a meaningful negative. Like, they got outscored by 8 to 10 points. And then for a majority of the rest of the year, it was either a neutral or a slight negative. Like, they only got outscored by 4 points and, whatever. So you already look at that and say the starters are coming back. Murray doesn't need the 20-game ramp up. Porter is going to be coming in, hopefully, knock on wood, healthier than he was coming into this year. So you hit the ground running a little bit better. Murray should just be better in general in talent. And then you look at a bench and say, is it really going to be worse than last year during the regular season? I don't think it will. And there's reason to be optimistic that it might actually even have more energy, more defensive prowess, and probably be more volatile. Like, there'll be some really bad games that tank you, but there might be some really good games where the young players play up to their potential and, have just a good game. So I actually think it's pretty realistic to expect the Nuggets to be as good or better in the regular season next year as they were this year. Yeah,
I think for where I'm at, I don't have a definitive answer in terms of I'm not on the like they're going to be worse. Like they're going to be way worse. I think you could say like the roster's worse. I think that's fair to say. I said that on Twitter. I think that that's fair to say. Like you lost Bruce Brown, you lost Jeff Green, you've replaced them with second round players. Like,
because in the playoffs, Murray and Porter were back to 100%, right? So like you're not factoring that in. I mean, if you go regular season, they didn't play well till December.
Nope.
Right? Murray, I think it was December 8th when he hits the shot. So it's like that took that long for them to ramp up. And then they stopped playing well in like March 1st. Yeah. So you really cut out 2.5 months of the season where you say the team, for whatever reasons, weren't playing well, and they left wins on the table. So maybe they don't leave those wins on the table this year. You know, it's entirely possible.
I think that there's an interesting kind of mix here of, because I'm tempted to say that they start sluggish off of the hangover, but that hangover sluggishness may still be better than how they were in December in November last year, where they still know how to play with each other. They weren't figuring stuff out. Like they were Jokic in particular was adamant early on last season that he was like, we have a bunch of new guys. Jamal's not back. Like we're still figuring stuff out, you know? And so you don't need to figure that out anymore. You know how the starting five plays together. And
let me ask on that line. Let me ask you this question, Matt. Is this they've had continuity over the years, but bringing back the entire starting five again, I just feel like every year there's been one change, you know, like Barton's hurt, so he's out, or this guy's hurt. It's actually them bringing back the starting five. If they make it obviously to opening night fully healthy, that might actually be sneaky great continuity. It's just completely not continuity off the bench. But
yeah,
this starting unit might be peaking actually.
And as you mentioned, the bench was bad last year. Like the bench was not a positive. We were always like, they have to survive the bench minutes, right? You know, they were good the first two rounds, which was really impressive and a testament to how those guys played. But, you know, and also how many minutes the starters were staggering. But there's an opportunity there for them to be able to have a similar kind of setup where it's like, look, as long as, you know, and a lot of this, it does get into the idea of typically whether it was Jeff or Facu before him, there's like one player that kind of messes with what the second unit's able to do and kind of drags it down, like not their fault. I'm saying that for Jeff Green here, or Facu. Like I am saying it that there you can't. My thing has been that when there's one player that definably drags down that plus minus, that's a problem you have to address regardless of fault. It's not really a fault thing. It's like these are the most talented basketball players on the planet. My point here is that I can't really like is Hunter Tyson going to be like a guy that drags that down? Is Zeke Naji going to be a guy that like absolutely kills the plus minus? Is Vlatko Chanchar going to be a guy that absolutely kills the plus minus? I don't necessarily see that as likely, right? If you tell me like, yeah, the minutes are terrible with Jeff Green, I would have been like, well, yeah, he's old. Like he's old, and it's the regular season. And so,
do you think that Jeff Green would have last year will be a better regular season player than either Zeke or Vlatko this year? Regular season?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I don't.
Maybe even, right? I'm not.
Like, here's what's kind of fascinating about last season is like, if you look at it, Jeff was too old to give the requisite energy in the regular season, and he was a minus that entire time. He's great for when it's the playoffs and it comes around and you're facing like average playoff teams. So he was good in the first two rounds. And then you got into the conference finals when the curve goes up because of the level of competition and he was no longer a positive. Like you basically have Jeff Green for those 2 weeks. And he was really great in those 2 weeks, right? And he had a couple plays in the finals. But like in general, it makes a lot of sense versus like I think Vlatko's this is what's been kind of the thing is I will roll my eyes at how various people talk about Vlatko, but I thought Vlatko earned the minutes last year. Like I said that. I was like, Vlatko Chanchar has earned the minutes over Jeff Green. Like it was disappointing to me that Vlatko was removed from the playoff rotation because there's nothing I can identify about Vlatko Chanchar's game to be like, yeah, he shouldn't be in this situation. Like there's no matchup. It's not that he's matchup proof. It's just like there's not one where I'm like, oh no, there's not a thing that he does that's terrible. It's just like Vlatko's fine. Like Vlatko's a perfectly fine NBA player that should be able to play those minutes. And I think that matters. And if you stabilize those and you take especially if you remove the swings, right? If Vlatko, Zeke, Christian, if those guys, Reggie, if those guys stabilize that second unit and allow for those bench guys, those deeper rookies to play some minutes, you can still have a not as bad as the worst bench minutes last year, and that still will raise the floor. I mean, and the reality is like as long as Jokic is healthy, then they're going to have a very high probability of winning every game. That's just been the history of.
This is why when you say like injuries, to me it's like injuries to Jokic and a long-term injury to Murray. Like outside of that, I mean, all those other guys are so valuable. I'm not trying to diminish them. It's just in a regular season, I just feel like you can survive 2 weeks of Michael Porter rolled his ankle and you have to plug in another player in that spot. Like Denver can just adjust on the fly because they've done it before. Yeah. Even when Murray went down, you remember they finished the season so strong without him for 20 games. It was the playoffs where you realize how much you missed him. But in the regular season, I just think Jokic is the piece that as long as he's there, Denver's floor is still pretty high.
I'm not skeptical of this element, but I want to ask the question. How does MPJ be better next year? Like, what does a better MPJ look like?
It's the toughest one, honestly, to answer because it's more athleticism, I think, is first and foremost. His athleticism throughout the season got better and his impact got better. And maybe there is a level that he can still reach that is beyond what we saw last year. Maybe not, but who knows? We'll see that. And then number two, it's the handle. It's can he get a little bit more to his game so he can run a little bit more pick and roll, get to the rim a little bit more. Those two things to me feel like the biggest ways he can improve. And then lastly, confidence and chemistry. We almost take for granted how much he's in and out. If he's in for this whole season and then he gets an off season and he comes in, does the team have a little bit more faith to run things through him? Does he know where he fits in a little bit better? Those are ways where I think he can be better. I'm with you, though, on that. I don't pencil it in. I don't think that's just like a pencil Michael Porter as a different player next year. He might be the exact same player. Yeah. But he might. But I'm
not going to say he's not either. Yeah. I think I'm open to possibilities. On the other side, we'll wrap up a little bit of a conversation previewing Summer League and the first game versus the Milwaukee Bucks, what we want to see, etc. I also want to get to a question here from King of Thornton, Jeff Morden, that talks about why ring chasers didn't flock to the Nuggets. We'll talk about that on the other side. First, I'm going to tell you about BetterHelp. Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is online therapy. It's the best way for you to be able to get therapy, to share your experience, and to get the kind of feedback that you're looking for. If you're looking to thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's not something to be intimidated by. It's not something to think that it's going to be like this entire thing. You will get to dictate the terms of how your therapy is going to go in most instances. Like your therapist is usually going to work with you about what you're comfortable with. I know a lot of people that are like, I don't really want to go down whatever roads it is that I'm dealing with, but you can take it at your own pace and take the own course. And in the course of doing so, you'll learn more about yourself. And in learning about yourself, you'll learn how to be a better version of yourself. And that's what we're all trying to be, right? Like you want to be the best version of yourself because it's going to make you, if nothing else, it's going to make you healthier. Mental health is so strongly tied, according to every single study that's done, to physical health. You will feel better if you are processing the things and working through the things and understanding yourself in a way that's going to make you your best version of yourself. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. That's really important. You need to be able to find the person that's right for you. Finding the right therapist really matters. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us, making this part of your day. Wrapping up here with Adam Mars before he zips off to Summer League practice. Jeff Morton says, Hollinger pointed this out, and I don't fully agree, that it was interesting that no ring-chasing players were flocking to Denver in free agency. Was that an organizational decision to not engage or circumstance? I'm going to let you take this since you have literally had the front office in the DVR studios in the last couple of days. So I want to get your thoughts on it.
It honestly would have been a good question to ask, and I'm bummed I didn't think about it. But, if you look at it, who are the ring-chasing vets? I mean, Eric Gordon comes to mind. Yep. Who else would be another example to cycle of a player? Because I think that it is a little bit of both. Like, look, I don't think it's a secret that Calvin Booth really believes in Peyton Watson and doesn't want to put somebody ahead of him. Christian Brown was a piece of the team last year. I think everybody in the organization believes in him. So you got two guys already that are like, hey, we really believe in these guys. Let's go to the other pieces. And I don't know, we'll see if it was really about Zeke and Vlatko or Pickett or Reggie or who it is. But I do think that the team has a lot of faith in those guys. And it's like, no, we don't want to create roadblocks. I think it's very clear that this roster was constructed in a way that was, we don't want to create roadblocks to where these guys don't play or to where Malone is in a tricky position because there's a win now, November, the vets will help us, but later on the young guys will help us. Remove that from him. That being said, we talked about this the other day. It is loud to me that Denver wasn't rumored, as a destination to a lot of people, and they won a title and all these guys got paid. Bruce Brown got paid. Everybody that's near the Nuggets organization just got paid a ton of money, and yet still nobody went, there wasn't all these rumors of people trying to flock to the organization. To me, it is something meaningful and probably tells you something about the difficulties of building in Denver. But at the same time, I think it was a little column A, little column B.
You're right that there really aren't those kind of players. They just weren't out there.
And I think that actually might be most of this.
Yeah. Like who's a veteran star that's maybe on the other side of the backside of his career. It's like Chris Middleton that got $34 million a year.
Right. Even Brooke Lopez is now like long in the tooth, and you think not only did he get a massive $20 million deal, he also got his brother to be joined on the team.
Well, also centers are not going to go to Denver because they know that there will be games in the playoffs where they literally will not play.
I don't even mean for him specifically, more just like when you look at the different, like he got a lot of money. It was more my point that he is a role player.
Yeah, I hear you. I was more talking about like, why wouldn't Robin Lopez be interested? And it's like, well,
right.
The centers aren't really going to be interested in those kind of situations either. Look, Dennis Schroeder got $12 million a year from the Raptors.
Grant Williams would have fit. Again, we're talking more about the guys that are signing minimum deals.
Yeah.
Ring chasing implies that it's like, I'm at the end. I could have made 5, but I'm going to make 3 here in Denver. That's fine because I could win a ring.
Kevin Love, had found a good fit with Miami, like the culture. Mason got another $5 million from the Clippers and has a pretty good spot there. Again, we're talking about centers in that situation. Dennis Smith Jr. is maybe one where Brooklyn getting him is a little bit surprising at only 2.5 per. I'd rather have Dennis Smith Jr. than Reggie. That's just me.
But he's not a ring chaser. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think that's my point here. Is like these are the guys that are in that ring chasing spot. Like there aren't.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Like there are not the veteran established names that you've heard of. Like it's like Jay Crowder that re-signed with the Bucks is like the only one I can really kind of identify on this list. Like I'm looking at the list of free agents. Again, like Pat Bev is still in the point where he's still trying to generate like a career. Like he goes to the Sixers for 3.2, right? Like there are not these guys that are veteran dudes that wound up, Torrey Craig is maybe one. He's been around the league for quite a while now. But
funny. Here's another thing, because I see Chris Morley, like Seth Curry. One thing I think really strongly about Calvin is he is, for right or wrong, time is only going to tell this, aggressively against the idea of like the name recognition. For example, Seth Curry went for cheap. Everybody knows him because he's the brother of Steph and because he shoots lights out and he's been on some high-profile teams. I think you look at that and say, that's a name, right? We all know him, and if you got him, the fan base would say, oh, good job. You got somebody I know. Whereas Calvin, in his draft picks, including last year, reached for guys that were both not names and also mocked well behind where they were picked. Every single one of them, including Christian Brown. So clearly, I think it's a part of Calvin's MO to say a lot of, again, right or wrong, a lot of teams do the safe thing where it's like, oh, it's Robert Covington, right? We all know Robert Covington. Like, get him in here. It's a name like everybody knows, and people say, oh, good, we got a 3-and-D guy. I think he looks at that and says, we're not going with conventional wisdom, and I think that's why some of those names were not intriguing to Denver.
Joe Pollock says, let's all just take a minute to recognize that Jokic was so good that he got Jock Landale paid simply because he didn't look like a road cone. Accurate.
100% accurate.
Honestly, I think Phoenix is worse so I like Drew Eubanks, but I think they're worse for swapping out Landale and Eubanks. I think
they're going all offense, man. I think it's so funny when teams are like, we can't stop Denver, so we're going to try to outgun them, because Eubanks to me is let's gun them.
Yeah. Let's wrap up here with Summer League. So first game on Friday versus the Bucks. Give me your expected starting 5.
It's funny because it could go a couple of different ways, but I'm going to go with the team that finished scrimmaging yesterday, which was Colin Gillespie and Jalen Pickett, double point guard backcourt. Julian Strother, Peyton Watson, and Ishmael Kamagate.
Okay. That's a fun group.
Shooting with Colin and Strother, with Pickett as a capable 3-point shooter. Peyton Watson is a capable then rim roller. You got defense. I think it would be a really interesting lineup. And then 2 point guards at Summer League is like a cheat code. So that if you have 2 point guards at Summer League, you should win. So you should look good. I should say, I don't win, loss, who cares? You should look more organized than the other team.
I will. I think I know the answer to this, but I will go ahead and because I think it's very likely that Peyton Watson only plays a handful of games, and then it's like, oh, he's beyond that now. Who do you think will be the Nuggets Summer League MVP? Just do it. Just do it.
I'm going to say Jalen Pickett. The ball's in his hands. It's just the ball's in. I think point guard. Like, first of all, it's unfair. You have to. If there's a good point guard, you have to scale. You have to like lean towards them. I will say this. I would not be surprised with either of Peyton Watson, Jalen Pickett, or Colin Gillespie. Any three of the Colin Gillespie, I think, was the best player last Summer League, right? He looked really steady, really good, just did the things we expected him to do. I wouldn't be surprised if it was any of those guys. I would be surprised if it was one of the others, but not blown away. Like if it was Strother, or if it was Hunter Tyson, or if it was Kamagate, or if it was some random, one of the other guys on the team,
Colin.
I wouldn't be I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah,
but I would be surprised.
Colin would be probably my number 2 here.
As a point guard, like
true,
the ball's going to be in his hands.
Yeah, that's accurate. With how
it's possible Strother just doesn't touch the ball for long stretches, not because they're freezing him out, but because Summer League's not exactly the most nuanced basketball, so the ball has to find you.
I'm rooting for Strother.
He does shoot threes. It's not hard. There's an easy path for him to be the best player. It's make your threes.
It's not hard.
Oh, I'm saying like Christian Brown last year did everything well, but didn't make threes, and everyone said he played poorly. I thought he played good. He just didn't shoot well. Strother could go 60% from 3 over 4 games at Summer League and do nothing else well, and it'll be like, man, he really played great.
Ted,
did Bull have a great Summer League? Remember, he kept making threes, kept making shots. Everyone's like, he had a great Summer League. I'm like,
yeah. Let's just go ahead and mention that real quick for all the grief that I took on Twitter about Malone messing up with Bull and how great he was in Orlando. The Orlando Magic have waived.
Did he land anywhere? Is he anywhere?
Not yet. He's still on waivers. So
that's wild. That's wild. Here's the real question, actually, for you, Matt. Is Bones in the bowl path?
No, he's better. He's better. Bones works harder.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think it's more that he's on the scale of the bowl, like ruining his own career or whatever, but not nearly at the bowl level.
Yeah. He works hard. He works harder. He'll stick. This is the big thing is like you can tell if a guy is as good as putting up the production the bowl was, but still the coach doesn't play him in the final 5 minutes of close games. Like it is a very loud statement of thanks for the points. Appreciate it. Appreciate you doing your job, but it's winning time. And you are not a part of that. And that's
we had a run of players, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, guys that even Nusuf Nurkic that didn't play a ton here, went other places and played pretty well, although, to a certain level. But the recent guys, RJ Hampton, Bull, Bones, that have departed, that are like players we all, Nuggets fans all really enjoyed and hyped and wanted to see do well, they've kind of all flamed out.
Yeah. The NBA is hard. I have one more for you because you haven't really given your thoughts on it. Hunter Tyson signing mean anything to you guys? We talked about signing in the first segment, but I just want to get your thoughts on Hunter Tyson, what you see him as.
He's the guy that I have done the least film on, and I have watched some film on him, so I feel like I know his game to some extent. But he's a guy that I just feel, look, I'm surprised by it. Right? It's a second-round pick that you sign 2 second-round picks to long-term deals, man. That is very, that seems very aggressive. But I'll have more takes after Summer League. Let's just say that I'll have more takes as I get to watch him play.
All right.
You?
I do not. I will check him out in summer league, and we'll form wild opinions based off of the 5 minutes that he plays in an unstructured environment in Las Vegas.
Can't wait.
So, all right. We'll do an episode over the weekend, wrapping up the game 1 of Nuggets Summer League, our first impressions, stuff like that. We'll hit you up with that. Make sure to be on the lookout for that. Follow the show on Twitter, and I'll get a Threads account set up and all these other things. Thanks for joining us. Have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy the summer. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.